Okay, so I'm going to talk about how do we leverage operational excellence to go a little bit more upstream into more of your strategic side of the business. We all know of using operational excellence for process improvement, right? That's common knowledge. It's been around for God knows how many decades. We've also used it quite extensively in certain industries like manufacturing, as well as in very transactional-based industries. But what we don't do really well is can we go upstream and start using it for M&As, customer improvement satisfactions, product releases, even entire organizational redesigns, and ongoing continuous improvement that's not a part of manufacturing, but much more as part of your service-oriented businesses. So when I started with Guardian about 4 years ago, the name of our department at the time was called Operational Excellence. About 1 year ago, we changed it to Continuous Improvement and Consulting. And there was a reason for that. It's because what we found ourselves doing is we were doing those acute one-time projects, improve your HR process, improve technology processes. But we started to go way upstream, and now let's take a look at, before we even look in acquisitioning a company, what are some of the things that we should look at? Is this the right company to partner with or to buy outright? If we want to restructure an entire department, what's the right way, what's the right structure, the right model? So how many of you guys actually use OE for much more upstream strategic? That's good. It's not very common. And we actually started going about this in a roundabout way. So about 1.5 years, I was in a leadership meeting, and one of our executive leads had, he was proposing to call in one of the big 4 consulting firms, and willing to spend $450,000 to figure out, should we go ahead and buy this one company? I proposed to him, my entire team is ex-Accenture, ex-Deloitte. Why don't we do it? We'll save you $450K. And in fact, if we don't do it right, feel free to take 10% out of our bonus. So I put something on the table and said, we'll continue doing this, and we'll do it right, and then let's continue. If we do it right, let's go much more into this business. So we did that. That particular area we got into, it was an M&A. Of course, I can't, it's still being negotiated right now, so I can't say the name of the company. But what the executive was looking for was, help me figure out if we should partner with this company, should we outright buy it, or should we just walk away from the deal? So basic DMAIC is what we use. And we did not even inform the executive that, look, we're going to use DMAIC, we're going to do OpEx. No, we didn't even do that. Instead, what we did was we structured the way we were asking questions. So for example, all of you guys know DMAIC, right? Who does not? DMAIC, you do not?
I do.
You do. Who does not know DMAIC? Good, okay. So what we did at this point was we asked the questions, structuring it into a DMAIC type of proposal. So for example, in Define, this company that we're looking into buying, what's their operations look like? What's their current customer base? What is their value proposition? Why are we even looking at them? Then we went into the M phase. What's the year cost for us? What's that one-time cost? And if we purchase them, what do we expect as far as market growth? What are some assumptions that we should be making? What about our ROI? What is it going to look like 5 years down the line? We went into the analogs. So this is one thing that I was surprised to find that in the previous M&As, leadership was not looking at. So what we did is we said, if we buy this company, and this company was making a digital platform where, as a consumer, you could go to their platform, schedule appointments with your dentist, your doctor, and you could figure out how much money it's going to cost you out of pocket, and then you could gauge which dentist or doctor you should go to. So that was a value proposition. But what previously, in other M&As, what leadership did not really look into is, if we buy the company, what's the impact on our operations? Do we have expertise in the call center? Do we have our front-end systems ready to support this? What about any back-end data transfers? So that's all additional cost as well as internal capacity needed to go ahead and pursue that M&A. So moving on, your classic improve stage, we converted that and said, okay, this is where we're going to now come up with the advice. Let's make a purchase, let's not, or let's partner. And then the final phase of control, we came and said, okay, if we're going to partner or purchase, here's what we think you should do. First, do A, B, and C. Second, do a bunch of these other things. Now let's talk about money and negotiations. Let me pause there for a second. I know we have 20 minutes. I'm kind of going through this quickly. But does this make sense? In essence, what we're trying to do is a value proposition going away from your tactical, project-based re-engineering to way upstream and saying, let's get involved in much more of your strategy type of work. Why do we even want to do that? Let me throw it out there. Why even bother? Things were working well doing your tactical projects.
That's a bigger pot of opportunities.
Yes.
To go upstream.
Yeah.
Because now you get from beginning all the way hopefully to the end.
Yeah. And interestingly, last week we had our offshore partners come and visit our onshore sites. And the offshore partners were looking into what is it that they can take offshore. They looked at this as a business, they said, oh, we don't want to touch this. You handle that. We'll take your tactical projects. So that was another reason. Going much more upstream, much more into your strategy. So we have another one. I'm going through examples because this is in essence looking at leveraging OE into your non-traditional OE areas. The first one was around M&A. This one, we looked at customer onboarding. So in 2015, we were at the verge of losing a large amount of business. We're talking close to 8 to 9 figures of business. And the root cause behind that was when new customers were getting signed on to our firm, it was taking such a long time to onboard that customer. So that meaning, for example, if you're signing on to have dental coverage, you go through that period of, what is it, from October till November, I think, is that sign-on period? So you're signing on, you think you've signed up, and you expect that by January 1st, you're going to be covered. Let's say January 2nd, you go to the dentist. You find out you're not covered. In fact, you don't know when you will be covered. So you could see this is a problem. So we had a lot of client complaints at the verge of losing 8 figures of revenue. And the reasoning behind this was actually kind of simple. So we had silos where information was passed from silo to silo. By the time that something is missing in one of the silos, it then has to go all the way back through the silos, back to the customer. So there was always constantly missing information. Another reason was sometimes the brokers were submitting things in paper. So in paper, you have the ability to freeform write anything you want, including a lot of missing information. All of that has to get scanned through. Again, it's going through your silos. If there's something that's not making sense, it's now going down from manager down to the lowest levels to figure out what happened, coming back up the management chain, and then going back through the silos. So it was he's signaling I got, what, 1 minute left? Wow. All right, let's go right to let's forget about the problem, let's go right to the solution. So when we were posed with this problem, this picture over here, who's ever seen starlings in action? Yeah, right? So one of the executives had actually posed this problem to us, to my team. And what I had told them is, what we need with this entire structure, what you need to do is, in essence, behave like the starlings. They have no one single point of leadership. They're always changing based upon what they're seeing in the environment. At the end of the day, what we proposed was, let's get rid of your leadership structure, have push the decision-making onto the floor. So the leaders are not involved in the decision-making process at all. If a worker sees missing information, there's no need to go up to the leader. Fill it out right there. Let's not have the silos. Instead, let's have what we're calling as pods, based upon products and based upon your functions. We didn't get a single complaint this year, so this was put into action late last year. So the busy season from October 2016 till November, not a single complaint. We did, of course, a few other things. So we actually restructured the way our internal operations was even facing with sales. Who knows the customer better than sales? Yet it was surprising to find out that they were not engaging sales at all throughout the entire operations. So I have a couple of other examples, but I think my 1 minute might be up. Quickly, questions. And this was in essence to show how do we leverage OE, go much more into your customer satisfaction, M&A, of value strategic areas. Questions? No?
I use something very much like this in a case study for teaching class students.
The Starlings?
No, not the Starlink,
Oh.
but what you were just talking about, your
Yeah.
current state before you changed.
Yes.
I use something very much like that.
It works. Yeah. Time's up? Oh, 0. Okay, perfect.